reference to what Beth was citing earlier, that is the site that the entire team worked towards with state ed, including superintendent and the assistant commissioner, to raise that level of aid, and it ended up being about an additional $12 million, roughly. So it went from one level even higher after that. And we will continue to work with state ed on the specifics. They calculate based on a definitive formula, but the information that we provided them had everything to do with the programs and the students and the needs assessment, and they saw fit to raise the level of aid that we receive.
Mr. Johnston, you have another question?
Yes, I do. My understanding is that with the building condition survey, there are different levels of things that need correction. And that level 1 is the level that is the most urgent. My question is, how much of the building condition survey level 1 items are addressed through this project? Are all of the level 1 items addressed in this project?
No, not all of the level 1 items are addressed.
Do we have an idea about how much or what proportion or?
I don't have it off the top of that. It's changed in committee several times.
What are we doing with the presentation?
Okay, Mr. Johnston, you have another question?
Yeah, could we possibly kind of reach a consensus that we would like to see the specifics of the building condition survey level 1 items addressed and not addressed in the proposal? I think that would be interesting and useful information for the board to have.
So you would like me to go around and ask if everybody would like to have the percentage of the building condition survey that's being addressed by this project?
Yeah, it might be simplest if it were just a number. If there are 10 items and we know that 5 or 6 or 9 of them are being addressed. If that makes sense from the data.
Okay. Would that data come before our consensus on the whole project? Or are you suggesting that this would hold that consensus up?
Well, that information would help me make my decision. I know that. I don't know about I'm not sure if that's true for other board members. Yeah.
Could you say that again? I didn't.
That information would help me to make my decision.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
And perhaps for other board members too.
Okay. So, yes.
I'm a little confused because I believe in our committee meeting, all level 1 was included in what we were talking about, in the buildings. Yes?
No.
All priority ones we had talked about that in our revisions, that priority ones were going to be taken care of in the buildings.
No, so at one point a long time ago, we started out with all level 1s being addressed as part of the project, and as the scope changed, the committee reduced some of those level 1 items to the most critical for budget reasons.
I didn't think so. I thought inside the buildings, priority ones were being dealt with. I thought that's what we.
There's also priority ones that were being dealt with on
Not
the
outside.
EPC side as well.
Not like some of the pavement, but inside.
So there was also several building condition survey items that were being addressed as part of the EPC, and there's also a whole bunch that were moved to maintenance that were being taken care of internally without the district.
Right, but basically things were being taken care
For the most part,
of. Yes.
in some fashion, but not all as part of the project.
Right.
So, Madam President, any idea we can provide, because we have a board member who's asking for the % of priority ones?
While you're thinking, can I call on Mr. Howard?
Yes, Madam President, just for the edification of everybody, can you give me a definition of priority 1?
So priority 1s are typically health and safety items or critical structural issues, anything that's, that would impact the health and safety of building occupants.
Okay, so if we're doing something of this capacity, why wouldn't we not address all priority 1 issues? I mean, if it's health and safety, environmental issues, why do some something of this magnitude and not take care of stuff that's priority one? I'm confused, somebody help me, please?
I just want to address that, is that as far as the project goes, it's not doing all of the priority one, but we do have a significant number, the energy performance contract, which is a separate project than this. And then, operations and maintenance, is also picked up on a number of those priority ones.
So I think what Mr. Howard is
If I
asking,
can clarify, so that holistically, it's expected that they all get done. The source of the money to pay for them is what I'm breaking out.
Okay, thank you.
and that's what I was going to reiterate, I think what you're asking is we can be assured that they'll be taken care of by different means.
Correct.
Is that in
That's
fact the
correct,
case?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Levinsky?
Yeah, so the impression I got was certain items that need to be fixed cannot be put in a capital bond project and need to be a repair project or an energy product. So we can't all, even if we'd like it to be in that case, that it can't be because it just doesn't fit that criteria. Or we could do it and there's no aid for it. You know, it's non-aidable. There are things that are that way too. So if they're all taken care of, but in different, coming out of different pots.
Different models, okay.
Mr. Johnston, does that help you with your request?
It does help, but I think it would still be very useful information. I guess it's more complicated than I initially thought. Maybe there needs to be some kind of report of the level 1 items, and then some of them are addressed by the energy project, some of them are maintenance, some of them are here, and then are there things left over, I guess, is the
So
question.
then what we should do is ask in our next weekly, which will be next Friday, to have a breakdown of those level 1 concerns that we'll see where they can come out, what pot they can come out of. Yeah?
Madam President?
Yes, sir. And I'll get back to you in a second, Mr. Howard.
Rather than the weekly, which is only for board members, I think it needs to be public. What priority items are being addressed by this project? What priority items are being addressed by the energy performance? And what items are being addressed by repairs? Because we need to learn from the mistakes of the past. Previous capital projects, certain items were supposed to be taken care of. Taxpayers voted on these items, and then the money was moved around, and these items were never fixed. And now the priority 2s and 3s from 10 years ago are priority 1s, and we're paying the price for it. So I think it's important before we move forward with this to make sure that those priority 1 items are addressed, whatever way they are, on a list, so we know and we can be held accountable for that.
Mr. Howard?
No, I was just dovetail on that. I was gonna say that transparency is gonna be so important, especially when we try to get the, public to vote on these, on this item, on this compact. So I think that the transparency issue is gonna be very important, how we go forward. So I would love for us to have that, maybe a table put together, in regards to the levels that are being addressed with this, compact.
Could you say that again? You would like that to be?
Okay, someone already asked for the level 1s, but if we can put a table together to show.
A table, okay.
And present it to the board, and like Darren said, to the public also, because as a transparency issue, we want people to understand what we're voting, what we're putting before them, and the need for these items.
So at the next board meeting, have a chart prepared and
Yes.
presented? Okay. So I guess I need help now, because we need a consensus to go forward with the project. Will this preparation of the chart hold back the seeker process?
Not me, because they said it's going to be addressed in some manner, but I think we can take care of that tonight, but I do want that table.
You want a chart?
Yes,
Okay, thank
yes.
you. Do you have your hand up, Ms. Santiago? Okay. Ms. Johnson? Mr. Johnson?
Thank you. There is another comment that I'd like to make for any consensus. And that is, for me, it seems that there is something missing here as far as a a rationale for the CTE building. We saw on this slide that the cost is over $75 million. And for me, anytime I'm going to spend money, I have an expectation for what I'm going to get. I have an idea, and I expect a certain value for my money. The information that we've been shown, I don't think is sufficient. I would like to understand better whether the program is going to change because of this new building. Is it just going to be a relocation and a modernizing of the spaces? Certainly that would be a good thing, but I'd like to know, will there be changes in the program? An obvious question would be, will the program expand? Will it service more students? Do we have an expectation for how many more students would be served?
If I may?
If I could just finish my comments. I guess the second part or aspect to this is why now? What is the reason to be building this building now? I'd like to understand that too. I'd certainly appreciate, it doesn't have to be a lengthy thing, it could be on one page, an explanation of the rationale for the building. And I think if that were produced, I think that would help everybody to understand why we're making this investment. A final aspect of a rationale, I think, would be what can we expect? What would we expect the impact on the district of this new space to be? Would we service the same students? More students? And what would be different? Thank you.
Dr. Padilla?
We have a lot of that information, and so I appreciate your honesty and how you feel about this. We certainly provided that information to SED, and that was the impetus for why they increased our aid. So we can certainly make sure we can get that to the entire board.
Mr. Stradone? Ms. Berger? Thank you so much.
So this information is all really new in terms of my capacity right now. However, I did follow what Mr. Johnson was putting forth. And in response to the purpose of the building, one of the things that I was thinking about, has there been any alignment with the city of Newburgh's planning and development? Because at the end of the day, we have these proposed programs for the CTE building, but do we know whether or not those, when a student ends up with a certificate, or, let's just say a certificate, how will that affect the actual workforce? Because at the end of the day, we have a demographic of Newburgh that is low income and they need jobs. And so is this going to actually lead to the economic development of our city? Are these young people going to actually end up with jobs that are viable to, foster a productive life for them when they finish going through these programs? Have these programs been researched? Are they premier in terms of the labor force industry? I don't know, but those are the questions that are in my head.
Yeah, I just want to answer a couple of those. Being from a background of industry and a tradesman, it's a known fact right now that there is a need throughout our region and throughout the state and throughout the country for skilled workers in industrial fields. For example, in welding. Welding is one of the highest paying trades that there is, and there's a need for it. And by building the CTE Center, we would be able to educate more than we have now because of the space, inadequate space that we have for them. In things like heating and air conditioning and ventilation, in the plumbing, in all the industrial things, there is a shortage right now of workers because of they're aging out. There's so many tradesmen that are hitting retirement age, and there's no one coming into the programs. By training them and pre-training them in high school, it's going to give them a leg up in order to get into these fields. The nursing program, there's a waiting list because there's not enough room. There's EMTs right now. There was a thing just today in the paper looking for EMTs around the area. We have the new program that would dive into that. There's so many opportunities for the students that are living within the city and also within a large city school district that may not choose to go to college. We have wonderful college pre-prep programs for colleges, but there's not a lot out there for the students that necessarily don't want to go to a 4-year school, might want to go on to a technical school, or might want to go into the trades. And the trades right now are clamoring to get more into it. So yes, I think it would help our students within our district tremendously. And I would say, we even reach out more and say, some of the students outside of our district would want to come to this type of center to increase their opportunities for jobs. So yes, I believe that it's something that is needed now and also in the near future. Just from my perspective, from what I've seen, because I have an awful lot of blue-collar people in my family that have made a tremendous living off of the trades, and they're in dire need of young people going into it today.
Are there any other questions or comments, Mr. Howard?
Yes, Madam President. So, in line with what Ms. Procost just said, I do believe there is a need, and I do believe that our CTE program can be a feeder system. But have we looked into any type of articulation agreements with the local unions, with the CSCA, the business and job provider, plumbers, electricians, and stuff like that, which will help us justify building a CTE program such as that? And I do know that another opportunity would be building a CTE program like that and having those type of facilities will also allow us to engage with that new grant that's coming out that's dealing with unemployed workers between the ages of 18 to 21, 25, where maybe we can have relationships with that part of the community. And see, that's an idea to sell to the community too. Having a CTE program like that is something that can be used community-wide also with that new grant. I forgot the name of the grant, but I know it's a grant that the district was supposed to be applying for with the in conjunction with the city of Newburgh, and I know part of that.
I think you're referring to Youth Build?
Youth Build, absolutely. And that would definitely come into play with the state-of-the-art CTE facility. So, I mean, just do our homework and let's reach out to these different trades and try to get these agreements to see if it's justified, where if we have a facility of this magnitude and we increase the amount of students that are going to be taking CTE programs, will it be an end game for these kids, for these students?
You asked a question around articulation, so Mr. Etria, just quickly speak on that.
Currently, the district employs a local 17 employee to work as a consultant with our district, and he works as a consultant with bricklayers, the fencing, our labor unions, our electrician unions, and he helps place kids in those programs that show those interests. We place them in community college, if that's what we can, to get the 6 to 9 credits to get them into their apprenticeships. So yes, we do bring that into the district. So we have one person that works for Local 17 that brings the kids into the other unions within the local area.
Thank you. Mrs. Santiago.
Thank you. I have, my comments and my questions are the majority of everyone that's discussed. I just have a few additional ones. And again, also being linked to this discussion, I'm a little ignorant, so forgive me. So the first question I have is technology. Obviously talking about earlier, making sure that, we're up to speed at times. Technology is changing at a very fast pace. So, what's the time limit that this would be finished by, more or less? How long would it take to build and so forth? Technology is being considered. We're talking about, we're having discussions of generators being, driven and so forth? What technology is being used? And are there any opportunities going forward with these buildings to get other credits if we are smart at technology?
Sure. So this process, depending on what the vote is, the first phase of drawing, so this would be a multi-phase project. We're looking at 2 to 3 years on the front end for drawings to be completed, sent up to SED, approvals received, and then the bidding process. That's going to be staggered in phase, but I think all in all, front end and then construction, you're looking at about a 7 to 8 year project.
And can you share anything about technologies currently being considered to be used, new technologies?
So for the exact reason you mentioned, it changes so rapidly. We have general ideas, but we haven't drilled down on the design of the exact technology we're going to put in the building because it changes so rapidly, and our engineers have to change, what they put in the building at the time of design. We do understand that it's kind of a moving target, so we look at when we put any infrastructure in the building, we're looking at flexibility, knowing that there's going to be change.
And I assume that we would make, and I assume that we would make every effort to capture any credits that might be available as we go forward.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you. The other question I have is going back again to the community and so forth. Can you share what our enrollment has been in CTE? Has it grown? What percentage has it grown over time? And how many of our students are out of district, and has that increased at all?
Currently, since 2010, we've had a 2 to 3% growth each year in our CTE programs. And over the last 4 to 5 years, we've increased our program each year, if not 2, in the past, starting in our last being barbering and emergency management. Any other questions?
Outside of the district, how many students do we have, and have you seen an increase in other students outside the district?
Currently, we are not sending any kids at this exact moment out of the district to the Barnhill cirrhosis. So we are in-house.
No, but any outside district students are coming?
No, we currently do not have that offered at this time. First of all, I would love that. Second of all, we're limited in the amount of space. And so something like this could absolutely be something that would open up the door for such a district-like meeting.
So I do have neighboring superintendents who have approached me about whether we're going to have some kind of agreement in the future where their students could come to us at a cost. So it has the potential to generate revenue. We're just not there yet. We're setting up those kind of agreements and having people use our facilities. But the opportunity can exist.
No, is there any increase? Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Yes, Mr. Starr and then Mr. Levinstein.
At the last facility steering committee, there was a comment made about the South Middle School Foundation. I would like someone to say whether or not that's true about the foundation of the building, because if that's a priority 1 item, I would imagine we need to address it during this process.
Mr. Colby?
So during the 2015 BCS, the building there's certain requirements that SED has for the architects and engineers to look at. Foundations and structure is one of them. The 2015 BCS was done by another firm, it wasn't done by us, but we have that information and it was reported as satisfactory. And that there was no issue with the exception of a comment about cracking in a crawl space on the foundation, and that it should be monitored. We followed behind that firm about a year behind them with our master plan and found the same thing. With the same recommendation that it should be monitored, and that's something that's being done by facilities, is that it's a check in terms of making sure that it's not anything that's growing or that it's an issue. Right now, our determination on it, and based on our inspections and observations, that is not a critical issue, and we agree with the previous architect on that determination as well.
Mr. Levinstein?
So, addressing Mr. Johnson's point a little bit on why now. Well, I think that giving an approval tonight or consensus to go ahead is 3 years before any shovel goes in the ground, and it's 5 years before there'll be a CTE building, I would assume, that students can go in. So that's part of now, I think. And the other thing that I think is important to bring up is, at this point, a lot of this is the 30,000-foot level looking down. And as you mentioned, things rapidly change. And when we get to the nitty-gritty 2 years from now, there may be other trades that we want to do, or whatever item it is, it certainly can be tweaked then, and so that's why it may not be so specific at this point, because we're still at the 30,000-foot level.
Are there any other questions or comments? Mr. Dyer?
Just a comment. I'm appreciative of the work of the committee. I know it's taken a long time to get to this point, and not everyone's going to be happy. I certainly wasn't happy in the beginning, but I think it's come to a point where things have gotten closer to reality. I mean, we're dealing with reality, with numbers and conditions of the buildings. The one comment I wanted to make, I didn't see, as far as a lot of the buildings, I see the cafeteria, or whatever you want to call the spaces for the stage is going to be removed at Heritage. I think at New Windsor, the stage is going to be removed. So a lot of these schools are going to have a cafeteria or a gym, but there's no space for concerts or community events happening in the schools like an auditorium. So we're getting away from the dramas, the real spaces to have those type of events at the elementary schools and the middle schools, and it's kind of sad to see that, because that's something that the parents really enjoy, to have that space to go and see their kids perform on a stage, not in a cafeteria on the floor. So I don't know what can be done after, if this gets put into process, seeker, but I would imagine creating an auditorium would increase the expenses. So that's just a comment I want to make as far as disappointment in that and seeing that.
I appreciate those comments, and it's something that we certainly grappled with in the very beginning. As you remember, we had auditoriums in several of the buildings. SED will give us, they won't give us anything. It's zero for an auditorium space. So that's a complete hit to the taxpayers. And we grappled with that for quite some time. But I think to your point, it's not to get away from the arts, but how can we utilize some other spaces in the district that will allow students to perform on stages and such? I think we're going to have to, as a collective body, really give that some thought and ensure that our students at the lowest levels have opportunities to have those kinds of experiences. So I do appreciate you sharing that.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Johnson?
Just one quick additional item. I noted in the New Windsor drawings that it says that the library will be renovated into a classroom. I'm wondering, is there a replacement library, or are they to do without? Thank you.
The current gymnasium that's on the lower level will become a library, as it's programmed right now. So there is a new library planned for that building.
Any other questions or comments? So we're going to ask for consensus on whether or not we should go ahead with the seeker process. Yes? So we're going to start with Mrs. Santiago.
Yes.
Mr. Johnston?
No.
Mrs. Burton?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Stradar?
No.
Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
And I'm going to vote yes.
Thank you for your consideration. We will come back to the board in October with a resolution for the secret process. And prior to that, we'll start getting the board some information that was requested this evening. Thank you again to the team, to those of the team members that are here, I just express my gratitude once again, and I do appreciate the conversation and questions posed by the board this evening. Madam President, that concludes my items.
Thank you, Dr. Padilla. We're going to move on to our Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, Mr. McLemore.
Thank you, Madam President. On the Human Resources Consent Agenda items 9.1 through 9.18, I would like to request.
Let's start with 9.1 through 9.18. We'll separate out any items and then we'll remove what you need to remove. So would any members like to separate out any items 9.1 through 9.18? Yes, sir.
9.3 doesn't have the word consent next to it. Is that a typo?
It's a typo.
Okay.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, 9.4.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to, 9.4, we're going to remove, not,
Right.
okay. I'd like to remove 9.3, separate it out, not remove it. So we'd like to remove separate out 9.3, remove 9.4, separate out 9.4. Well, Mr. McLemore would like to remove 9.4. Is that what we can do?
Has to be put on the floor first, and then placed on the table.
Okay, so this is what we'll do. Ms. Prokash, let's hold on 9.4 for a second, okay? So we're going to separate out 9.3. I'd like to entertain a motion.
Point of order, we're separating now 9.3 and 9.4.
No,
Yes, and then more.
then there's more, 9.9 and 9.11. So you're confusing me. So we're separating out 9.3, 9.4, 9.9, and 9.11. Okay? I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
So,
So, questions or discussion on the others that are still in play? That's 9.1, 9.2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, through, and then 12 through 18. Yes, sir.
On 9.5, will this person also be working at North and West? So I'm assuming,
Hang on one second. Yes, we're going to add that. Mr. McLemore?
This person will be working at May.
so I guess, there's bullying happening pretty much. We need this position in a lot of different places, so how are we just addressing one school?
Explain it.
We have a bullying prevention coordinator and a bullying prevention liaison in each of our schools. I believe you've already approved them for the other schools. Ms. Campbell is an addition that will be appointed tonight to a social worker position at the high school. So I believe the main campus would have her as in that role as well. But I believe you've already appointed those positions for all of the other schools.
So all the schools have a bullying prevention liaison?
And coordinator.
Okay, I would love to know how that works. Can we get feedback from the administration?
You probably refer to them as DASA coordinators.
Okay, so do they actually go into the classrooms and teach kids? What do they do?
Dr. Green?
These people are appointed so that if there is an issue in the building, that the child can go and report that issue. And so that's one piece of it. And so in this capacity, this is part of her role. There's another person that's already appointed at Maine, and so this is in addition to support the population size, so that they can have additional access points if they need support.
So what are we doing to actually prevent bullying before it gets to the point where we have an issue? Because I've had this problem for years. My kids had to move from school to school because he was bullied so badly, he was getting bruises. And there was no issue.
Okay.
So what's the problem to prevent bullying? I guess this position doesn't do that.
Okay, right now we're in the HR section. That's a great question, and it really needs to be answered, but let's take that, write the question to me, and then we'll get you the answer, in public in the future, okay? Because right now, it's kind of mixing up what we're doing, okay?
I didn't know what the role.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments, Mr. Levinstein?
The list of employees on 9.2, are they the people that are going to be staffing the classes that we approved and funded by the 21st Century Grant? Is that what those names are? We approved earlier tonight.
These appointments are for after-school appointments. That these appointments are for their teachers that are going to be taking care of the after-school program, whether it be in math, enrichment in math, science, the arts, social studies.
Yes, no, I understand, but that's to staff the programs that we just approved the resolution tonight, correct? In the CNI elementary? No?
Yeah, but I think there may be two different funding things. Ms. Felice, can you help us with that?
Thank you. So these appointments are to support the grant, the after-school grant, but the Boys and Girls Club appointments are separate and apart. Those are the artists, the specialists.
Okay. Are there any other questions on the remaining parts? No? Okay. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Ms. Brokaw?
Yes.
Mr. Stridiron?
Yes.
Ms. Santiago?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Ms. Burton?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Johnston?
Yes.
Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Beneo?
Yes. We're going to move on to 9.3. And I'd like to entertain a motion, please. Questions or discussion? I asked that, yes, sir.
So we're creating an E&L teacher. Is this related to the number of people that we hired through our outreach with human resources? We actually have the people that we need. We sent them to Puerto Rico to hire people. This is not related.
Okay. I'm going to speak about this one because I asked to have this poll. I have a very strong feeling about changing a bilingual position, that's what this position is, although it's called elementary, into an E&L position, because I feel that it's giving a very different perception of allowing us to change what Lau versus Nichols says that we must do, and that is provide bilingual education if there are a certain number of students at a grade level in a particular school. Lau versus Nichols is still on the books. It has not been repealed. And so therefore, I feel that we should not abolish the position, but we should hold it in abeyance and put an E&L teacher in there because the kids need somebody. We cannot, in effect, find a bilingual teacher. Mr. McLemore and his staff have really searched. Philosophically, therefore, I'm going to vote no on this because of that. I just wish that we could keep the bilingual position and then hire an E&L teacher to provide immediate relief to the students and education to the students that need that type of education. So I just wanted everybody to know why I'm going to be voting the way I'm going to be voting and why I asked for it to be separated out. Yes, Mr. Howard.
Yes, Madam President. Did we discuss, is this a discussion we had yesterday at personnel, correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I wasn't allowed to speak in personnel. Yes, Ms.
Madam President, that's why at the meeting, I had said, is it possible to have the sunset in June so that when we get a bilingual teacher, that bilingual teacher would come to this position. But I don't want to leave the students, as you say, without anybody this year. Is there any way that we can, I don't know, is there any way that we can add to this tonight or change it, the wording, so that it says that we would have an E&L teacher position and then have it sunset in June, so we then get a bilingual, or?
Could we amend the
Could we
position?
amend it, yeah.
So that we don't abolish the position,
Correct.
just create an E&L position and not fill that bilingual position?
To carry both positions on the books, is that
Yeah.
but only fill one?
Right.
Yes.
Well, you would modify this just to create the E&L position, right?
Right.
That would be-
I don't know how everybody else feels about that, but I have some strong feelings about it. Mr. Johnston?
Could someone just give us a short explanation about the difference between those two roles?
I'm gonna hand it over to our experts that are current.
So currently, students can be serviced in the 6th grade for bilingual, so they're receiving their instruction in both monolingual in English and in Spanish in their core instruction. In E&L, they'll receive services either pushing in a co-taught classroom, or they'll be pulled out depending on their level of testing through the NICETS lab.
So you understand that the language of instruction would be in the native language with English as a second language, or E&L, embedded in each class. So the student is progressing in content while also learning English.
Right,
Yes,
so-
Mr. Levinstein and then Mr. Howard.
So, I guess what you're saying is we would be out of compliance if we filled that bilingual spot with an E&L teacher? Are we out of compliance with that, or?
They can't find anybody. They've searched and searched.
I understand that, but if we.
We are out of compliance.
So, we're out of compliance not having the bilingual, or if we put an EML teacher in, instead of amending the positions, we put an ENL teacher in that spot for the bilingual teacher, are we still out of compliance? So, because we're putting a teacher that may not be certified in that. So it's both ways we're out of compliance. If there's nobody in there, if we amend it and create an ENL, we're out of compliance too, then you're saying.
Yeah, but right now there may be just a general sub in there. And we want to make sure that there's appropriate and adequate instruction going on in English.
Dr. Spindler, you want to add to that?
So currently, we do have a 6th grade bilingual class, and we're servicing our 7th and 8th grade with the support of a substitute that has that speaks Spanish, so that they can get the content in their native language. With the ENL, we'll be able to receive ENL supports through that standalone ENL service. So we can provide it both ways, but ideally, we want to be able to provide bilingual services in their content, because especially at the secondary level, it becomes more complicated to get them the content. Ms. Talise?
In addition, whether it's a bilingual extension certification or a LOTE certification, both individuals would have experience and knowledge of language acquisition.
Mr. Howard?
Yes, Madam President, will you entertain a motion to amend?
Excuse me?
Will you entertain a motion to amend?
Sure. Can I have a second?
So point of order, what's the amendment?
The amendment is to not abolish the position and create the ENL position
So you still have a second?
till June 30th.
Excuse me?
Till June 30th.
Thank you. You have that, Dawn. I guess we have a roll call to amend.
Mr. Stridiron?
Yes.
Ms. Santiago?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Ms. Burton?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Johnston?
Yes.
Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Prokop?
Okay, so we have an amended resolution on the floor. Is there any other questions or discussion? Can I have a roll call on that amendment?
Point of order, I'm just going to read the amendment. So this resolution with the amendment, it would be resolved upon the recommendation of the Board of Education hereby creates one FTE E&L position effective September 25th, 2018, and ending on June 30th, 2018. Correct. Okay.
Everybody okay with that?
Thank you.
Okay, so now we have a roll, any other questions or discussion? We have a roll call.
As amended. Ms. Santiago?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Ms. Burton?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Johnston?
Yes.
Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Prokop?
Yes.
Mr. Stridener?
Yes.
Okay, so now we have item 9.4. I'd like to entertain a motion, please. Can I have a second, please, on 9.4? All right, questions or discussion? Yes, Ms. Okay, roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Point of order needs a second. Second.
Sorry. Roll call now.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Ms. Burton?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Johnston? Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes,
Ms. Prokop?
Yes.
Mr. Stridener?
Yes.
Ms. Santiago?
Yes.
we're going to move on to 9.9. I'd like to entertain a motion, please. Yes, ma'am. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Ms. Burton?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Johnston?
Yes.
Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Prokop? Mr. Stridener?
Yes.
Ms. Santiago?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
We're going to move on to item number 9.11. I'd like to entertain a motion, please. Yes, ma'am. Can I have a second, please? Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Prokop? Mr. Stridener?
Yes.
Ms. Santiago?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Ms. Burton?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. McLemore.
Thank you, Madam President. That concludes my items.
Thank you, Mr. McLemore. We're going to move on to the clerk of the board, Mr. McCoy.
Thank you, Madam President. I have the approval of the minutes from September 12th, 2018.
I'd like to entertain a motion, please. Questions or discussion? Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Levinstein? Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Prokop? Mr. Stridener?
Yes.
Ms. Santiago?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Ms. Burton? Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson? That concludes my items, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy. We are now at the portion of the agenda for public discussion on non-agenda items. Please refer to the procedure sheet next to the sign-in sheet. We do have some people signed up. Irene Hughes. Oh, sorry, Mr. Lawrence is first. I apologize, Ms. Hughes. We'll get back to you in a second. If you can hand that, those are questions. Thanks, Dr.
Good evening, all. Matthew Lawrence, City Newburgh resident. Most of you know me. Those of you who do not, lived here my life. Newburgh Free Academy graduate, current city resident, and also sports announcer for the last 26 years here. First of all, congratulations on an impressive tonight. Coming in here to see what's going on in the school district is absolutely amazing. And what the general public does not know is that you should all be commended, because what the vision of that school district is just incredible. Many people would be impressed. Dr. Padilla, for the way you go to Albany is incredible. We appreciate all your efforts. One of the things I'm here to talk about tonight is the lack thereof, I guess, appointment and interviews and things for the current men's basketball, boys basketball coach. I don't name anybody by names. I know that's one of the issues. But I handed, back in 2011 and 2012, there was an independent investigation paid for by this district, and the results of that, I never saw published. I found them on the archives of the Newburgh City School District website. Based on 2 independent investigations paid for by the Newburgh City School District and taxpayer money, the following were factual. And these are a coach in 2008, 2009, and then 2009, 2010, who we all know was publicly blamed and has been denied his coaching position ever since. Factual results based on that investigation of what I've given the clerk was that number 1, the computer system was the main issue and needed correction. The coach not mentioned. Students were well versed in the 90% attendance policy and were able to circumvent the process. Again, the coach not mentioned. Student cuts were primarily outside of the season. The coach was not mentioned. Parentally excused absences, as I quote, hundreds of them. Coach not mentioned. Administrative excused cuts and tardies, even beyond the allowable limits. Coach not mentioned. Undue reliance on the civil service staff, attendance staff. Coach not mentioned. Parentally excused absences, as I said, and failure to conform the coding system of the computer attendance programs to the coding system of the current attendance policy. Coach was never mentioned. That was the result of this independent investigation. As far as I know, coaches do not have access to their players' grades unless they are a student in their coach's class. This coach was simply given a list of eligible players every week, and those players played. If they were okay to play, and it was given from the administration and the athletic department, why would this man question if they were eligible to? Not one single mention of the man as a coach or a teacher and any culpabilities for these students cutting class or being responsible for their own actions. The school's own programs, the students themselves, the parental excuses, and the administration, who now have currently conveniently retired. The principal retired that summer. The athletic director retired that summer. And another administrator who was involved in the administrative cuts, she's somewhere in the school district. She's been moved. The parents have been taking no blame for this. The students blamed everyone but themselves. Administration, as I just said, 2 rode off in the sunset and 1 is currently still employed. And the attendance policy was fixed after the investigation. The NAACP, about 3 to 4 weeks ago, had a piece in the paper and claimed to have inside information against the coach. They've gone so far as to slander him and his character in the record. A reporter used these boys as a platform for his own personal gain. He also got on WFAN. He also, as many of you probably do not know, went to Marist and labeled a lecture as how he took down the Newburgh basketball program. I have much more, but I only have 30 seconds, so this is what I'll tell you. Many times in my life, I have wanted to go back in time and right a wrong, and I'm sure we all have, that I have done. If I could just get the chance to do it over again, I would definitely do it in a different way. This is your chance. This man was wronged by this district, by the past board, not you, by the past board. We owe him. They owe an apology. The paper owes him an apology, the NAACP owes him an apology. But we owe him to get him back as a coach in this district. Thank you.
Ms. Hughes? Hi, good evening. My name is Irene Hughes. I'm from the town of Newburgh. My son Alex is a 6th grader at Heritage Middle School. I'm back from the last meeting. So I want to thank the board for allowing me to speak 2 weeks ago. And while there were a few people who were a little less than pleased that I came here as my first stop of my crusade to voice my concerns about the lack of music ensembles for 6th graders at Heritage, I am happy to report that some progress has been made. I'm here tonight to offer some gratitude for the work that's been done to help remedy the problem. Ms. Brown reached out to me yesterday to inform me that changes have been made to the schedule, and Principal Brunter has been in contact with me throughout the day today to inform me that my son was now scheduled for chorus in lieu of his previously scheduled music and art classes. My son came home yesterday thrilled. The chorus was finally on his schedule, but still wondering about orchestra. So today, after a number of back and forths with the school, I was told that because Alex is in accelerated courses, that there is no room for orchestra in his schedule.
He will have access to cello lessons and possibly an after-school rehearsal will be eligible for him so that he can actually play in the concert. And obviously this is not ideal, but I'm looking at it as progress. I'm grateful for the efforts that have been taken by the district and by Heritage Middle School in particular to get music back into the school day in at least some capacity. If this arrangement works and all district and all county ensembles are still an option, I'm going to take the nominal win. It is disappointing, though, that scholars are being asked to choose between accelerated courses and ensemble music. There are also a number of sixth graders still being told that they cannot get their schedules changed at this point and that ensemble music is just unavailable. So it seems like there's still a tremendous amount of inconsistency. I've heard from a lot of people over the past 2 weeks, various stakeholders in the district, from teachers to students, parents and staff, and there's been a real common thread about the fear of losing performing arts in the district. I'm grateful that an impromptu statement at a board meeting helped to spark a solution to this problem, but performing arts is struggling district-wide, and that's a terrible shame. It's a lost opportunity for growth, for camaraderie, for confidence, intellectual stimulation, but most importantly, it's a loss of an opportunity to express the universal language of music, something that brings us all together, and that's an integral part of our daily lives. Just think about your car rides here and home at some point tonight. I implore this board to hold the performing arts in the high regard that it so warrants. If you haven't been to one of our concerts, go to one. You'll be amazed at what these kids can do. So I thank you for your support on this endeavor to this point, especially to those who sought me out personally. And I mean this as a promise and certainly not as a threat, but I do plan to continue to lobby for music ensembles in the school, and I look forward to your continued support. Thank you.
Ms. Joyce Crockett.
Good evening, or good night, you know. Again, I want to thank you, this board, and the executive board of the school district. You do an excellent job. You have long hours, and I appreciate it because I'm sleepy. So I'm going to go on with what I came to speak on. I have a son named Jermaine Calhoun who played basketball for this district since 9th grade. And he finished and graduated. I have 5 children that graduated from this district, and I'm very proud of this district that I'm an employee there. So Crockett is my married name, so I'm lucky. I get to use one or the other, and I'm using Crockett for tonight. Okay? So I'm standing before you just simply want to talk to you about the varsity coach position. I was up at the high school at the time all this stuff was going on. Never once was asked for any information. But I support the coach there were 2 coaches. There were the head coach and there was an assistant coach. I'm here to support that coach because that coach was done unjustly and unfairly. I feel also that this district has a tremendous job, a hard decision to make, but can make it fairly. And that everyone makes mistakes, but the hardest job is to forgive, and everybody needs to know how to forgive and move on. Changes for our children means accepting the wrong and correcting them and moving forward. I have something from my son that he texted me. He says, as a young kid, still learning how to play basketball, I ran into my first organized sports coach, Coach Dino, in my 9th grade year. Initially, before the season started, I didn't even think I'd be a starter on a freshman team. The coach helped me make that happen by making it simple for me, by playing to my strength, which was rebounding, putback, and a little mid-range jumper. Coach definitely made sure we were the most in-shape team in the league due to us being undersized, and we went out there and produced a lot of wins for South Junior High School. I went straight to varsity for my 10th, 11th, and 12th years. I just want to thank Coach Dino for being a cool, tough coach and for giving me a chance on my first organized team by showing me, if you put the work in, great things will happen for you, because I definitely continued that throughout my experience in high school and in my life. Good luck to you all, and thank you, Coach Gino. And he grew to be 6'5", doing very well in Virginia. So in ending, my family, my friends, my co-workers, we support Coach Gino. Thank you.
Joshua Cardione. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board on non-agenda items? Please come and please say your name and tell us where you live.
Good evening. Sorry, and I know it's late because I'm getting tired too. Miranda Hill. I'm at Courtney Avenue in Newburgh, former employee, retired for the district meeting. But anyway, this has bothered me for the past year, actually. My last year working, the amount of plastic bags that we've been discarding. We're leaving an enormous environmental imprint with the bags, the breakfast bags. And I mean, I commend the district because, you know, every child will get a breakfast. But I think we need to look at something else to deliver the breakfast in, because it's overwhelming. It really is, the amount of, I mean, every child, can you imagine, every day, every child receiving a little plastic bag with the breakfast in it. Plastic that lasts for years. So we just need to think about that.
Would anyone else like to address the board on non-agenda items? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. Roll call, Mr. Clark.
Ms. Beneo?
Yes.
Ms. Prokop? Mr. Strineyer? Ms. Santiago? Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Ms. Burton? Mr. Howard? Yes. Mr. Johnson? Mr. Levinstein?
Thank you. Have a nice evening.